This podcast is co-created and co-produced by the Food Allergy Institute and the 12 Company. Listeners should know that the podcast host, Lesley-Anne Stone, is not a physician nor a licensed medical professional, and the purpose of this podcast is strictly limited to storytelling. Any content shared within the podcast is not intended to be medical advice and should not be used for diagnosis or treatment purposes. All listeners are urged to consult their healthcare providers. The creators, hosts, and guests of this podcast are not liable for any decisions or actions taken by any persons who claim to rely upon the content of this podcast. Hi, I'm Lesley-Anne Stone, and this is Resilience and Hope, a food allergy podcast. Welcome to the season 2 finale of the podcast. And for this season 2 finale, we have the most special guest on the planet. We have Dr. Inderpal Randhawa. Dr. Randhawa is the founder of the Food Allergy Institute and the Tolerance Induction Program, as well as TPIRC. He is here today answering so many of the questions that we received from season 1. This is going to be a really riveting conversation, and I'm just so excited to get started. So without further ado, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Dr. Randhawa. So many questions to ask you. This season 2, is all about answering questions and feedback we received from season 1. And we have a lot of questions for you. So the first question I want to ask is about older patients. What is the plan for the future? What would it take to get adults into TIP? Because a lot of people say, like, why can't you treat somebody who's 50?
Yeah. So go back to the start of the program. And I had to make a decision 20 years ago. Who should we start with? Like, how do we figure this out? And it came down to fundamentals of how the immune system ages, right? How old your immune system is and what it does at certain points of your life. So I immediately knew that I was not going to treat anybody under age 5 because that was going to be a risky time. The immune system grows too rapidly, et cetera. So really, we started off between 5 and 15 years of age. That was our first group. A couple years later, realized we could manage the youngest kids, dropped that all the way down to infants. Then we took it up to age 21, and then we took it up to age 30. We have enough data and architecture now to treat patients up to age 50.
Wow.
50. We've treated about 400 patients historically who've been in that age group. So that's enough information for us to kind of do this effectively and safely, which is really, really key. And I really want to stress, it is not easy to build these kind of systems, right? And now you're dealing with 30 to 50-year-olds. What do they have that other people don't have, right? Pregnancy. Other medical conditions really start to pop up in your 40s, right? And so we have to be absolutely ready to manage that however it may come. We've done a great job for the younger patients. Now we got to extrapolate that and make that for the adults. This has been a top priority of mine. Why is it a top priority? You have literally triple the number of adults who have food anaphylaxis than kids. Triple. 3 times. Most of the severe reactions and sadly, kind of fatal events are happening in adults.
Wow.
Think about that. I mean, we always hear about the kids, right? But it's the adults because life is very different as an adult, right? I mean, they gain some level of confidence in how they live their life, right? Okay, well, I just won't do this. I won't eat that, et cetera. And it's the wrong circumstance, the wrong time. And all of a sudden, they're on that flight and they told everybody and it's a mess. So I've always said, for the last, frankly, 10 to 15 years, as soon as we can get this thing ready, we're going to launch it. So we've already built out the space. We've built out the data architecture and we built out the models. So we're going to limit the number of people initially. We're going to bring in roughly like 500 patients or so. And we're going to do it only here in Southern California. Whole new team, whole new trained set of doctors who are focused on adult-based medicine. And I'm very confident they're going to have the same level of success as our younger patients. And I think it's going to be as life-changing and maybe in some sense more life-changing for them given how long they've had to live like this.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about that.
Yeah. I don't often talk about this, but we have about 8 to 9% of our current patient population has one parent who's anaphylactic to food.
Wow.
So it's almost 1 in 10. And that's, imagine like a parent doing this for their kid and being done and then realizing, well, I still got to worry about this, right? I mean, that's That's an interesting perspective. And so to all those parents who've asked me for the last 20 years, when is this going to happen? We never forgot about it, and we're ready to roll.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wow.
And if I could add, I think it's really important that adults, particularly 30 to 50-year-olds, have options. They don't really have any treatment options. Unlike, pediatrics, where there's at least other things that people can try, the adult population has really, really limited opportunities. The studies aren't done on them. The treatments are not really tested on them. My theory is that the adult immune system is very much fixed, right? Like it's kind of trained a certain way.
Mhm.
And to try to retrain it takes a different level of work.
Hmm.
And that's what TIP is really good at, right? We can fine tune, we can recognize patterns, we can design things for that person. And our adult population will find out, hey, does it take longer? Is it a different course specifically? We'll learn that as we go. But the initial phase of work that we've done shows that it's equally successful, works really well, but it is a different type of TIP.
Unbelievable. Wow, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And our listeners are going to be very happy to hear this. Wow.
It's well past time.
Ugh, amazing. So another piece of feedback that we keep getting are from people outside of Southern California.
Mhm.
Why can't TIP be on the East Coast? Why can't you come to my city? Why can't you come to yada, yada, yada land? Can you break down for us why it is so hard to move this to another region of the country? What does it take to do that?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to boil it down to one thing, it's honestly people. Like you have to have the right people doing the process of TIP, right? TIP is machine learning, AI, lots of math models, right? So it's not like that has the problem, right? You can deploy that anywhere in the world, but you need people to actually understand how to use this system, these tools in a specific type of patient, right?
Mhm.
And so, as you know very well, TIP is been tried and tested on the most complicated patients, right? Still to this day, 7 out of 10 of our patients are super complex, failed everything out there, have gone to all the university systems, and now they're here for us, right? And we're going to manage them to a point of remission. We have to make sure that the trained people, which, currently Food Allergy Institute has hundreds of employees who actually have to be trained up in getting this done. We have to make sure that they're ready to do this at a different site, right? Remember, I mean, this is now not 100 miles away. This is 3,000 miles away on the other coast. But what we've worked very hard on these last, 6, 7 years is essentially testing how we do that. How do we get the right people? How do we train them? How do we make sure that patients can be treated at a distance and have the exact same benefits of being treated here at our main corporate site? And so that's what we've done. And that's why it's difficult to just say, hey, let's go to another site. And one last thing is that it's not easy to find doctors, right, who are going to actually run TIP, meaning through one of our sites. We're very good at training them. I mean, we can train a doctor in roughly 10 to 12 weeks. We can train mid-level providers in about the same amount of time. And these individuals are learning incredible amounts of information at that time. They are learning far more about food allergy than any other specialist, right? As I tell people, I'm an allergist. Obviously, I have a lot of certifications, but when I had to retake my board exam for allergy, out of 400 questions in that exam, only one was on food allergy,
You're kidding me.
just one. And it is not commonly taught. It's not certainly taught in depth. If you look at any of the allergy journals, the amount of time that's spent on food allergies always like at the end, it's the smallest amount.
Hmm.
And so we've worked very hard to produce a huge educational opportunity to take somebody who knows almost nothing about it. In 12 weeks, we train them, and these guys are experts. And now they're ready to use our systems and make sure TIP works for every single patient.
So you expanded to the Bay Area. How's it going?
Right. We went there knowing that we already had, hundreds of patients in the Bay Area. So job one was take those folks and basically create a line and get them into our new site. We take the group who's already been there, right?
Okay.
Meaning like they've been flying down to our main site, and we're going to line them up and get them in the door. And that's
Okay.
been going great. So, we have a great team, great staff, good central location. And shortly here, we're going to start taking new patients as well.
Okay.
And so that is the model we want to have anywhere else we go, right?
Okay.
We have to kind of move all of our current patients in first, and then start taking new patients as quickly as possible.
Okay. So are there plans in the near future to expand outside of California?
Yeah. So one other point I have to bring up is that to make this work, it's not only the people and the technology, it's also getting this to be the most affordable program possible, which means we have to be in network, right? Meaning insurance wise, how do you get in network? That is why we kind of stayed in California, right? As we expanded to San Diego initially and then the Bay Area. Once you're in network in California, you're covered in all of California. For us to get out to the East Coast, we have to get licensed and we have to get in network as much as we can, as quickly as we can, to save costs for our patients who are out there. So that's an important part of things. But we're ready, right? So we are ready to do this. We have roughly 1,000 some odd patients, from the northeast of the U.S., which is, and that's just active
Those are current
patients.
active patients in
Current
TIP.
active patients,
Wow.
1,000 plus. And you can imagine that's a long line, right, to try and get patients into that site. But no, we're very excited to announce that we are looking to open a location. I'm not going to say exactly where in the Northeast because it's going to be somewhere in the tri-state area.
My people.
Your people. We're going to find the right location that can accommodate that number of patients, which you can imagine is a pretty large location, right?
Yeah.
And so coming up here very soon, we have worked very hard to build the system, to acquire the funding necessary to make this happen. It's long past you, Lesley-Anne, long past you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've flown out from the East Coast back here and thinking, these families do so much to get here. It's just not easy. I mean, it's hard enough to do the program, doing it right and seeing all the benefits. Now you have these flights, and I think we've done a great job, and we've tried to make this as doable. And obviously, we still have 55% of our patients fly here.
Wow.
But imagine if you take away that burden of travel, right? All of a sudden, this is now maybe a 1-hour drive, right, versus a 4 or 5 hour flight. You don't have to stay overnight, nearly as much, things of that nature. I just think it's going to open this up for so many more people who are like, I'm not sure if I can do that. Well, now you can.
That barrier is going to be removed.
Yeah.
What's so interesting, too, in doing this podcast and meeting people on the East Coast who have been guests is that there are pockets that once one person in this community joins TIP, they all join. We had a guest in their kids' high school. They could just rattle off 6 patients in that high school in this pocket on the East Coast who fly in from TIP. That was wild to me. So this is going to just open even
everything
more.
So if you took a heat map, and we know exactly where all of our patients are, we're a data company, you can look at a heat map of any state, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and it is interesting because yes, you'll find a huge chunk in like a major metropolis, but yeah, you go to a small town in Kentucky and we'll have 4 or 5 patients. And you go to a small town in Southern Illinois and you'll find 5 or 6 patients.
Word of mouth.
People still rely on talking to their friends, their neighbors in their community to try and figure out, hey, what can I do to change the outcome for my kids?
Of course. And they see it. I mean, the proof is, I say that to people, Sam is proof. Yeah. So you touched upon insurance and getting in network, and that's something else I wanted to talk about today because we've been getting a lot of feedback about the costs of TIP. Can you elaborate on the costs and why the costs are what they are?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in a time, and I'd say this has been going on for about 15 years, where the cost of healthcare has been steadily rising. I mean, nobody's going to argue these points. So whether you're in a hospital, you're going to a clinic, you're seeing a specialist, the cost has just been going up. You then add to that what's going on with the cost of goods right now. I mean, like everything's expensive. And so people are now, I think, extremely aware of cost, right? And maybe 5 years ago it was maybe not as much. And they should look at that. And then they should, in my opinion, look at a simple balance. What's the cost and what is the value? Cost versus value. And I want to really go back and explain this in a slightly different way. This program was built over 20 years of time. It was built with my personal funding for the vast majority of the first 10 years of it, right? So I invested about $24 to $25 million of my own money building this company up, initially as a nonprofit. And people can look that up on our 990, and you can see that, yes, there was constant flow of funds, and I did this myself. because I knew we had to solve this problem. Now, that may sound like a lot of money, but in the world of pharma, right, and kind of how classical treatments come about, they're spending around $1 billion to typically get a drug to market. So 1 billion versus just call it 25 million. That's a huge difference. The sad reality is the $1 billion drug often fails, right? And so when people look at this, I go back to my point of what's the cost and then what's the value, right? So if you look at Palforzia, right, which was like the peanut pill, essentially, as it was called, the cost to get it to market was somewhere around $150 million. And then it was bought up by Nestle Health Sciences for $2 billion, ultimately to basically take it back off the market. Because why? Didn't work very well, lots of side effects, and the uptake was not there. The customers didn't want it. That pill cost around $8,000 to $9,000 a year.
Wow.
$8,000 to $9,000 for a pill that doesn't really work very well and doesn't get you anything as far as bite proof past that, right? You can maybe be lucky if you get a peanut in. That's a cost value that I look at. So the cost of these things is very, very high because the cost to develop these things is billions of dollars. And this has been our healthcare system for decades, right? I mean, this is how it's been. My model that I built up here is uniquely different, right? It's built on data modeling, data science, and of course, building that engineering system to solve this problem around the immune system. $25 million in, and we're able to provide this treatment for about $950 a month maximum cost. Like that's all it is, total cost, of which 60% or more is going to be covered by your insurance. And that is only for a few years of time. And then once you're in remission, the cost just drops.
Yeah.
Right. So I look at that and I say, okay, well, that's the cost. What is the value you're getting out of this? You're getting a lifetime of remission, a lifetime of food freedom, a lifetime of not having to worry about reactions. You get to consume foods like a non-allergic person.
And that $950 includes labs.
Everything.
Which is your lab that you own here on site.
100%, right? So I understand people's frustration. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've always said I always wanted to keep the cost of this accessible. But we're in a time where, you have to provide the highest safety, the best treatment. We have to continue to advance our cause. Remember, no one gives us funds, right? We have zero institutional dollars. So imagine, like, we've literally built this company to this size, the largest food allergy treatment program in the world by far, with bootstrap money, right? Ground up, blood, sweat, and tears, and have accomplished it. And that means to treat adults, we have to fund our own research, right? To treat and advance our cause, providing better products, better accuracy, better testing. We have to fund it ourselves. And so ultimately, I understand the frustration, but I do believe that the value of that cost is absolutely priceless. It's that simple.
I just want to reiterate, the $950 includes the labs, the office visits, the food challenges, the support, that 24/7 care that you have at the clinic. There's always providers on call.
100% covered. I mean, you don't get that anywhere else.
No.
So I had 2 patients that I saw just yesterday, one from Minnesota and one from New York. Both have extremely complicated cases. Keep in mind, neither of their cases are really a tip problem. They have other organs involved with a different disease. What does our team do? We talk to their specialists. I'm talking multiple specialists. We organize the testing and the care between all of them to make sure that not only is their health good from that standpoint, but that their immune system is ready to continue to and get them to the finish line. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any system that does it. That type of serious multidisciplinary care in real time, I don't care if it's a Saturday, Sunday, we're on it and we're getting it done. That's included in the value of that cost.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I hope other healthcare systems look at, other disease areas look at, because we don't do any favors to our patients when we kind of essentially point them in a direction and say, yeah, it's, we'll kind of manage your rheumatology problem here, but you need to now go over there. Well, I can't get in for 3 months and now my disease has progressed. It's not a good system, right? And I think what we've shown here is with really, really good data modeling, and frankly, just good technology, you can solve a lot of problems when that communication is built kind of to the top level and when you can forecast what the next step looks like.
Yes. And that's another thing with the tip fee included in that 950 is building out this technology
Yeah.
that you've developed
Yeah.
that's able to forecast and predict.
We can forecast the diagnosis. Nobody else can do that. We're in the mid 90% range of accuracy. Everything else is 50, 40%. We're able to forecast your treatment down to number of visits, which is unheard of. I mean, I would love to know any other disease that says, hey, in these many visits, you're going to be totally fine, right? And again, are we perfect? No, but we're in that 90% range. And frankly, we'll get better, right? We're then able to forecast remission. With Sam, we
Yes.
know what his remission looks like because we're constantly getting new data, and that new data tells us what the next steps look like and how life is just going to be a lifetime benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So that type of approach, that strategic approach, is something that will apply now to the adult population. We're going to start to apply it to other types of disease as well that are tied together between food and disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is just the start.
Talk to me about mental health, because this is an overarching theme of season 2 that's come up is mental health and protecting mental health, not just for patients of TIP, but also the parents.
Yeah.
And I know you presented at the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yep.
Talk to us about your presentation and your observations.
Yeah, Lesley-Anne, I'd say this is the one area that, in so many ways, I feel like I failed at, right? In that sense, because I saw very early on in dealing with food anaphylaxis how bad this condition is for mental health, right? I mean, whether it's mom or dad or sibling or the actual patient themselves. It's just, it's hard to put it into words, but the amount of fear, anxiety, and essentially post-traumatic stress from a reaction, it doesn't go away, right? I mean, you're essentially taking a normal life and this sudden shift occurs, and then all you're told is carry this adrenaline device, avoid all these things, and you'll be okay. But then it's going to happen again. And so what that does is there is this immediate fear mechanism that goes in to any normal person. And that creates this surge of catecholamines in your body where you're constantly like here, hypervigilant, can't turn it off. And what does that do to you over time, right? It's going to pass on to your kid, right? So now you're nervous about things, your kid's going to be nervous. You're stressed, your health goes down. They're stressed, their health goes down. And this is like how serious it is, right? So 15 plus years ago, I had my first few psychologists who brought their kids into TIP,
Oh, wow.
right? And I literally took them aside and said, listen, can you help me? Because I would like to try to address this problem. And one of them was very nice, actually. I appreciated the fact that she spent a number of hours with me and said, look, doctor, there's no studies on this stuff. And I was like, is there a parallel? Is there anything similar? And they went down the path of kind of like eating disorders.
Interesting.
Like anorexia, bulimia, things like that. And I told them, I said, look, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not trained in that space, but it doesn't seem like it's the same thing because this is a trauma associated anxiety.
Yes.
And every time they're potentially in that same environment again, it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
2019, we started screening our patients with an anxiety screening survey. And so it's actually part of our data set. Every patient gets it. We validated that screening model. And then we started reorganizing or restudying that as they went through TIP. And lo and behold, as kids went through TIP, those anxiety scores started to drop off pretty significantly. Interestingly, it happened very early in the program. So it's not like for the patient, it's not like they even needed to be eating peanuts. They just felt way more secure in our environment. And just think about that for a sec, right? We took all that stress and gave them structure, right? We gave them the structure of TIP. So they knew, hey, if anything happens, I got a command center. These gummies are safe and secure. I know that if I pass these challenges or I go through these weeks of dosing, that I will pass my challenge. And so I think that's part of it. And then we started screening some of the parents as well. And similarly, it took a little longer, but they were in TIP and their anxiety levels went down. So all of this is something I have been talking about for at least the last number of years. And the National Alliance Against Mental Illness, called NAMI, which is the largest mental health organization in the world, basically asked me to go speak at their national conference. And it was great, to be honest with you, because I'm a scientist. I present at lots of places. This is not new to me, but I've never presented on mental health.
Hmm.
Right? It's not my area of expertise. But there was a large number of people in this audience, and none of them were in the food allergy space. Right? So these are behavioral therapists, mental health workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, etc. And they immediately recognized that there's a gap. Right? Like we're not doing anything for these patients. Zero. And they also realized the NIH is not funding this, right? The branch that does mental health doesn't fund anything. And because there's no major organization paying enough attention to this, there's plenty of, food allergy organizations out there. Why are they not funding the mental health side of it, which affects a minimum, at least according to studies, 40 to 50% of the people who are affected by it. So you imagine there's at least 20 million people who have food allergies and associated anxiety in the United States, and we give them nothing.
Yeah.
So when it was all done, I came back and I said, all right, how can we try to solve this problem? I know no one else is going to do it. So what can we do? So fortunately, a couple of years ago, a few of our providers were very interested in learning about mental health and went on and got certified, essentially as behavioral therapists and so forth. We then started building the technology around this as well, right? Which means, what information do we need to gather from patients? What type of therapies seem appropriate? And then how do we measure those changes? Which is, to be fair, something that doesn't even happen in most behavioral health.
Yeah, I was going to
Right.
say, this is so interesting.
So we're
Yeah.
building the data science behind at least this angle
Okay.
of mental health. And so we're now looking in 2026 to actually launch the first mental health intake assessment and mental health therapy as part of TIP. So again, more to come on that, but we're looking to launch it as a no additional cost. It's covered by clinical, billing charges, essentially. It can be done via telehealth.
Wow.
And fingers crossed, I'm confident this is going to be very helpful, at least from a diagnosis standpoint. I think we'll collect initial information to know that the therapy that's associated with it is going to actually have a major benefit to the families.
Wow.
And so, I can't tell you, like I said, I feel like I failed at this for the longest time, but it just took a while to understand what this condition is. And then ultimately, what we can actually do to make a serious impact.
So you're collecting data on mental health to figure out what kinds of therapies or treatment will be needed to help with anxiety
With food allergy anxiety specifically.
specifically.
Yeah.
Wow.
So imagine what that does. And by the way, we're offering this initially just to our patients and their parents. So, I can't stress enough that, for the, millions of parents out there, right? It's diametrically opposed to how we should typically parent, right? You are having in that constant state of panic and fear. It doesn't allow your child to grow, right? You're trying to protect them so much
Yes.
that they can't grow. And, look, the program is great. TIP gets the job done. We're not worried about that. But if we can help, particularly, I'd say the 30, 40% of patients who clearly need that support, and we can get them to a much, much better place early in the program, and we can give that benefit to families and parents particularly as well, I feel like that would complete my work.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
I believe that this is kind of the last phase of where our company needs to go, right? Meaning that we always said we are here to take care of the whole patient, right? And it's important to hear that, right? If we're serious about taking care of a condition, that means we got to take care of everything related to that condition. So whether it's something allied as a condition, or whether it's the mental health component, or it's the community basis, which again is another thing we don't talk about enough, that we have a whole community here within TIP, as you know very well,
Mhm.
and we want to continue to grow that, right? And I feel like that's how healthcare should be, right? One disease at a time, and manage all things that come to it. Do it well, Not only do you treat the disease in an extraordinary way, you've changed the people, you've given them a better life, and you've changed the entire community.
Well, cancer centers do this because my mother was treated out of Sloan Kettering, and they treat the whole family. They have support services, mental health services, whatever. So it's an interesting idea to
Yeah.
bring this into, right? It's parallel.
And at scale, right?
Yes.
Cancer centers, I think Sloan is unique, to be honest with you. I don't think that's the case for majority of cancer centers. They do give it a fair effort, but it's not as tightly stitched as I think what we have here.
Yes.
And I think, for us, it should be, it's almost not, it's not an option.
Do you think for something at a cancer center, it's because there's so many cancers? It's not just one cancer. So,
I think when cancer centers are trying to do their best for holistic care, that's the word they use.
Mhm.
I think all too often they're doing it knowing that the patient is not going to have a good outcome.
Hmm.
And I know that maybe sound a little harsh, but the truth is, a lot of cancers don't necessarily have the outcome we want.
Right.
Right. And for those folks, they put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that their family's adapting, that the patient is adapting, and that the experience can be, as reasonable as possible. And for that, God bless them, right? That's a necessary thing to do. But for the folks who are, kind of in remission, or the folks who are kind of in active treatment, it's not really as structured as that. They kind of focus the energy more towards one group. And as I mentioned, I don't think it's common across the entire country. It is really at specific centers that have a certain amount of funding where they can do that.
Interesting. Really interesting. Okay. I could sit here all day.
Food Allergy Institute knows that we're never going to be able to build enough sites to treat everybody. That's just an honest answer, right? We can open up something in the Northeast, we can open up something in other states, we can open up something, in Europe. But, small, 1,000 employees, you can't manage tens of millions of people. The beauty of TIP and the way I've built it is that the technology can treat tens of millions of people,
Hmm.
but we need the personnel to actually give access, of treatment. And so the example I give to folks is, if you're a doctor, imagine you go see your doctor. What can that doctor do for you, right? In so many ways. They can write you a prescription, right? So they'll send in a prescription to some pharmacy. So that's a medication. They can order a test for you, right? So they can order like a blood test or whatever it may be. They can maybe order an x-ray or some sort of imaging. Maybe they can order like a therapy, like a physical therapy. And then ultimately, maybe they can do a procedure, right? So they can do like a surgery.
Hmm.
Those are kind of the tools that any doctor has, right? There's
Hmm.
not a whole lot beyond that. What we want to do is offer the doctors who are trained accordingly an additional lever, one other lever, and that is our testing. So, TIP testing, we're announcing this through our overall system called Cybus.ai. So, this is kind of our larger scale AI system. We're now a general allergist or a general doctor, even who wants to have really, really good testing access, can actually order the test that we use to diagnose our patients.
So there, by using your test, the information will go into the AI, and you can spit out what foods they're most anaphylaxis to, all of that.
Correct. Right. Imagine that,
Wow.
right? So now all these folks who are questioning, like, as my kid, what are they anaphylactic to versus not?
Yes.
We can start to organize that. And we're doing this through what we call an affiliate model, right?
Okay.
So we're looking to affiliate ourselves, particularly with allergists to start. And we've had a lot of interest actually from a lot of allergists, which is a great change. And they are looking to come in and start maybe testing, 5 patients a month, 10 patients a month, and understand what that process looks like. It will then immediately create the next opportunity, which is if you are anaphylactic, you have an option, right? You want to join TIP, join the Tolerance Induction Program, and now we can start the treatment process.
Hmm.
So we're going to see how this affiliate model works through the testing first, and then eventually get them in the treatment process. Our San Francisco site is a good example of this, right? So the doctor who's our lead doctor up there is an affiliate physician,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So she's affiliated with us,
Okay.
and that allows her to kind of have the knowledge base across testing. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to treat via TIP.
So she has her own practice,
Correct.
And she is part of the Food Allergy Institute, and she can do the testing.
Correct.
Does she also administer the tip plan for those patients?
Right now, we have our own team up there doing that,
I
but over
see.
time, that's eventually kind of the goal, right? So for the patients who are deemed, I'd call them, moderate risk, or, not the exact severe cases. Severe cases, I think, should be treated in our sites.
Hmm.
But the rest of those patients, absolutely. If the physician's trained effectively, they have the knowledge base. And by the way, we also have 24/7 command center support. So if there's any problems, we can deal with it. I think that will open the door for the millions of people who need access to TIP. So I think the concept of affiliates is something that we want to get the word out on,
Hmm.
right? Which is talk to our teams. You can find us online, and if there's interest, come on down, take a tour of our site, take a tour of our full facilities. We've had many allergists actually come down and do that, which is
Wow.
great. The transparency of our organization is crystal clear, right? You want to know how we operate? You come down and take a tour. And you want to start to utilize this as a lever, as a tool for you to treat your patients better? Well, we're happy to engage. And we want to partner with doctors. I mean, that's like I said, we will never be able to treat all the patients who need the care they need.
Hmm.
We have to work with doctors who can actually, kind of join hands with us and provide.
And that's another way for you to expand.
That's right.
We received a lot of pushback from listeners
Mhm.
who are not part of the TIP community about you sharing your data and you sharing your research.
Mhm.
Would you shed some light on that? Answer that question, why you don't?
I think it's an interesting question, right? Because if someone talks about data, right, like sharing data or whatever term that is, I guess my question then is, what exactly is meant by that statement? And I'll give you some examples. If if a drug company is coming up with a new treatment, right? They're going to say, "Here, take this pill. It treats disease X." And they're going to go through clinical trials, and they're going to use taxpayer dollars for those trials, by the
Mm.
way. And then ultimately that drug gets approved by the FDA, and then they're going to, charge a certain amount of money for that drug. Um, the only data they share is the result of the effect of the drug. That's it. So if the drug is effective, here's the data. If the drug's not effective, here's the data. We have done the exact same thing. We have published across peanut, tree nuts, dairy. And again, these are the largest studies ever in those spaces, especially towards remission. And we show that TIP is effective to this point. It works really well in these areas. Here's what the results look like. So when people say, like, where's the data? I'm saying the data is right there. Now, is the drug company forced to disclose what's in its pill? The answer is no.
Hmm.
And we're in the same boat, right? We've worked very hard to build a system that is highly effective, that's highly accurate, and continues to be built upon. For us to not have intellectual property around that is simply not smart. It's not smart practice. It's not smart on how we continue to grow. And I'd say most importantly, apply what we've learned in this one disease space to many other diseases. And so when folks, use that term, I always want to ask them, what do you mean by data? Because we have published, I'd say, far more than any other food allergy company. In fact, I challenge anybody, show me. Show me who has published as much as we have. Show me who is constantly publishing like we are.
And you publish your numbers in real time too, what's happening at the clinic on your website.
Exactly right. I mean, who does that, right? So
Right.
we're showing people in real time, how effective is it? How many people are in the program? What kind of reactions are happening? And I think it takes a lot to say, we believe in our numbers, and we obviously do this under regulation. We elect to share our data, I think, at the highest level possible. And I encourage people to go actually take a look at it.
Switching gears for a minute, I noticed in this last year such an abundance and increase in environmental allergies.
Yeah. Hmm.
What is going on in the world? Why is this happening? So many people affected by it. Some people have never been affected by it before. What's happening right now?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Yes, we've had a bad couple seasons, without a doubt. I mean, we're seeing increased asthma, which is an allergic thing. Increased nasal ocular allergies, and of course, increased food allergies. We know that as well. I think a couple things have changed in the last couple of years. One is I don't know if you remember, during COVID, like there was like no infections for a while, right? Like, because there's only COVID and not a whole lot of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Then for a couple seasons, we had like triple infections. Like, oh, they have the flu plus
Yes.
rhinovirus plus this.
Yeah.
And that does things to the immune system, right? Just think about that. When do you get three viruses at once, right? And what does that do to your immune system?
Right.
And now, this current winter, as an example, is that we're still seeing some of that, but less of it, right? So it's now kind of back to one virus and what it's doing to your immune system. There's a very, very strong tether between infections and allergies. Absolutely the case, from a very young age all the way through adulthood. And I do believe that, the infection profile of humans has definitely changed in the last 5-6 years. It's still trying to figure itself out. That's going to be a new factor that we've not dealt with before. And then you add to that what's going on just in general with pollen and just in general with the environment, whether it's global warming, wildfires, air pollution, all these factors come into play. That also is a second kind of factor that seems to aggravate the development of allergies. And I'd say the last part is we are just seeing a situation where individuals, when they develop allergies, I think are just much more aware of it. For the longest time, people would sit there with a cough for, 10 months and then finally get diagnosed. Now they just go on ChatGPT and figure out in 2 days that they have allergies.
It's just that simple.
It's just that simple.
What is your dream for FAI and TPIRC in the decades to come?
I tell our company this kind of story, and I think it's the story of any great company, right? I mean, think of like Netflix, like back in the old days, right? It was
When you get in the mail?
you get in the mail, and then suddenly it turned into this early streaming thing, and now Netflix is a movie company, right? Like they make movies,
They've taken over a whole industry.
which is, I'm sure it's disrupted a lot of things, right? But I mean, that's what I've been doing for a long time, right? And FAI started off as a novel form of immunotherapy, like we're going to try something very different, then turned into a data company. So we just had a lot of data and information. Then we turned into a machine learning and AI system. And now we are turning into something different, right? And so our next phase is really this large scale AI model, right? So think of it as not just, food allergy anymore. It's AI beyond all of that. So if you think about the total life that you live and all of the food that you eat, all of the immune system activity that's occurring, what's going on in your lungs, what's going on in your skin, what's going on in all your critical systems, that can be wrapped into one system of AI for everyone.
Wow.
So we call that an exposome. Exposome, like exposure in total. So I believe FAI, through its Cybus build, is going to get to that level where it is a full exposome model. We're going to be having so much kind of sequential information and data on folks that not only does it help them as individuals, it'll give us guidance into any disease that involves the respiratory tract, the lungs, the gut, food, and maybe beyond. So that's what I hope I can accomplish. I mean, I've done 20 years of this and I think we've done, well, but now we want
That is the next
the next
and
20
the
years,
legacy.
we got to get it done. It's important. In the end, it comes down to fundamentals. Our foundation and our mission has always been the same: data science, data modeling, impact, right? We have to have that impact. And that means not just, getting rid of allergies, which we can do very, very well, but it means starting to tackle other, very serious diseases.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. I could talk to you all day. You're so fascinating. Oh, thank you so much.
Lesley-Anne. Listen, I just want to thank you because I think you represent not just the TIP community, right? You represent this large group of parents, particularly moms, who, as I always say, are the core of our organization. Like the core of anything we do, it's moms. Moms are going to do anything for their kids.
Anything.
And, I take that to heart every day that I go to work, right? I mean, like I tell my teams, we can be wrong 0 times, right? I mean, we have to get it right, not just for these kids, but, for the moms. And I think you are taking that to a different level. Congratulations on success with this podcast.
Thank you. It's
hope you'll-
because of you. Thank you.
Hope you'll have me back next time.
Always welcome back. Thank you. And thank you for being our finale again. And thank you for giving me this platform. And thank you for saving Sam's life. He's doing so great, Sam. So great. 7 years in remission. And he's great. He's doing great. And it's all because of you. And I can never, ever thank you enough. So thank you.
Well, his success is going to be the success of so many more.
And thank you, the listener, for joining us in this episode of Resilience and Hope, a Food Allergy podcast. And thank you for being with me on this journey for season 2 of the podcast. If you have any ideas for future seasons ahead, we would love to hear from you. Please write us. Our email address is resilienceandhopepodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on social media. Our social media handle is @Resilience and Hope Podcast. And please, wherever you listen to podcasts, please give us 5 stars. 5 stars will help us be more visible to people out there looking for food allergy related podcasts. So please give us 5 stars. And until next time, I'm Lesley-Anne Stone. Resilience and Hope podcast is made possible thanks to the support of the Food Allergy Institute.